Can one day change the face of the world? On the morning of September 11th, 2001, the sun rose over New York like a normal day. People were heading to their offices, children were entering schools, and no one knew that a few moments later, the course of history would change forever. It was the day when the heart of America was attacked, when fear, grief, and surprise gripped the entire world. The scenes of that day are still etched in the minds of every American today, as if they had just happened. The question is, why was that day so extraordinary? At around 8:46 in the morning, an American Airlines plane crashed into the North Tower of the World Trade Center. At first, people thought it might have been an accident. Only one sentence was echoing on the news channels. A plane has crashed into the World Trade Center. But as the smoke rose and live cameras showed scenes of destruction, a strange fear began to settle in people's hearts. At 9:03 a.m., the second plane hit the South Tower. Now, no one had any doubts. This was not an accident, but a planned attack. New York was filled with screams, running, and the sound of debris. Smoke filled the sky and silence fell on the ground. News channels around the world were showing the same scene. America, which considered itself invincible, was on its knees. Sometime later, the third plane crashed into the Pentagon, the center of American defense. The fourth plane, which was heading for the White House, was stopped by brave passengers giving their lives. Not only buildings fell that day, but also the foundations of trust, security, and peace within America were shaken. The South Tower collapsed at 9:59 a.m. Just 29 minutes later, the North Tower also fell. Dust, debris, and human screams turned New York into a war-torn city. At that moment, no one had words, only tears. The world watched history not being made, but shattered on TV screens. But the question was, why did this happen? Al-Qaeda was behind the attacks, and Osama bin Laden became the world's most wanted man. According to experts, the attacks were the result of America's policies in the Middle East, anger within the Muslim world, and an imbalance of power. But was the truth so simple? In the 1990s, America had become the sole superpower. After the collapse of the Soviet Union, the world saw the birth of a new world order. But power always breeds opposition. For many groups in the Middle East, America had now become a symbol of an enemy, and 9/11 was an explosion of these feelings. Immediately after the attacks, the entire country was plunged into mourning. George Bush declared, "We will not tire, we will not falter, and we will not fail." The United States launched a new war called the War on Terror. It was not just against Afghanistan, but against an ideology that had divided the world in two. In October 2001, the United States invaded Afghanistan. The goal was to eliminate Al-Qaeda and overthrow the Taliban regime. But what was supposed to be a war of a few months ended up lasting 2 decades. Millions of people were killed, and Afghanistan once again became a battlefield. After 9/11, world politics changed dramatically. The United States based its foreign policy on preemptive strikes. The invasion of Iraq, tensions with Iran, and anti-terrorism laws around the world all were the effects of that one day. The media dubbed the event the day the world changed. But the media's reporting also increased fear. Alarm bells began to ring on every news channel. The term Muslim terrorist became common, and a new psychological war began, the war of fear. Life became difficult for Muslims in America and Europe. Suspicion, hatred, and discrimination tore apart many families. Islamophobia grew, and an entire nation began to be viewed with suspicion. Was the war on terror truly just, or just another face of revenge? Stricter airport checks, modern surveillance systems, and laws like the Patriot Act transformed American society. Now a new battle had begun between freedom and security. People felt safe, but not free. According to many historians, 9/11 was not just a terrorist attack. It was a turning point. Some call it the decline of American pride. Others call it the beginning of a new global awakening. But all agree that that day did not leave the world the same. Every year on September 11th, the same bells ring in New York, the same names are called. The tears of mothers, the flowers of children, and the fears of survivors all testify that time heals wounds, but does not erase memories. The attacks shook the American economy. Stock markets crashed, global trade was disrupted, and oil prices fluctuated wildly. But America learned from the trauma and strengthened itself, sending the message that we fall, but we do not break. 9/11 also changed Hollywood. Movies, dramas, and news all revolved around terrorism, war, and suspense. A new hero was born in the minds of the American people, one who could overcome fear. This event was a test not only for America, but for all of humanity. It showed that hatred can destroy everything in an instant, but only compassion and solidarity can save humanity. The world saw scenes of solidarity that had never been possible before. 2 decades later, America has not been able to get out of the memory of that day. The wars are over, but the wounds remain. America is still searching for its identity, its security, and its place in the world. Time has passed, the buildings have been rebuilt, but the ashes of that day are still hidden behind the curtain of the American dream. The question is, did we really learn anything from that day? Or is humanity still doomed to repeat its mistakes? Tell us in the comments. In your opinion, did 9/11 unite the world or further divide it?